Hey guys, welcome back to Dixie Belle's YouTube channel. It's Lauren here from Furniture Flipping Teacher, and we're back for another FFT Friday, and we have got a beauty on our hands today. I am so excited to get my hands on this vintage Hutch. I actually just found this 2 days ago at Goodwill and it was $60. So I'm excited to get started. Like I said, I've already got some plans laid out for this and I'm just excited to get started. So I am going to go ahead and take off some of this tape that was on there. I think it was just on there to protect it and make sure the door doesn't fly open and so on and so forth. It has a little bit of damage to the veneer, so we'll definitely be using some Dixie mud and filling in that veneer, but then we'll also be painting it with a beautiful color. I really wish people wouldn't put tape all over furniture because now it's a little bit sticky, so we'll definitely have to figure out how to get that off. But we're gonna go ahead and take the hardware off first and then get to cleaning. I think this hardware down here is pretty unique, so I'll definitely be reattaching that. It's an old piece, and I can always tell when pieces are pretty old because it has the flathead screws as opposed to the Phillips screws that most pieces that are newer have nowadays. Clasps down here below are actually broken, so I'm definitely going to need to replace these so that the doors can still shut appropriately. And I'm just actually gonna probably just grab some at Menards where it's just a magnetic piece where you attach it to the bottom here, attach it to the bottom of the drawer, the door, and then it'll stay and it'll connect down here. So I think that's the way I'm gonna go, since these doors don't stay locked unless they have something here to keep them from swinging open. Now that I've got all my hardware removed, I am going to go ahead and clean with my White Lightning. And I've got it in this bottle just to make it a little bit easier for me to clean with. White Lightning is a really good degreaser, which is what you really want to make sure you have in your furniture cleaners. I'm actually going to go ahead and take out these shelves. So I usually don't paint down in the actual hutches, so I'm just cleaning this up really well to make sure that, you know, it's got enough, just to make sure it's clean because it's very dusty down here. And then of course we take our clean rinse water and give it another wipe down to get all that White Lightning off. Now it's time to make some repairs. So I'm going to be using some brown Dixie mud right now, and I'm just going to be going around and filling in all of the areas like this that's missing a little bit of veneer and any holes that I want to fill. I'm most likely going to need more than one application of Dixie mud, which is normal, so don't be alarmed if when you go and sand it down the first time that you might need to do a second application. I put the Dixie mud on several places, and then down here I actually decided, down here and here, I actually decided that I'm going to use a heat gun to take this veneer off. So once that Dixie mud dries overnight and I'm ready to come back, I am going to be taking that veneer off with my heat gun. Here we go. Heat gun. Like I said, I am going to be just removing all of this chipped off veneer. There's just a lot more missing than I would be able to fill in, so it's just better if I remove it. If you've never used the heat gun before, it's a pretty simple process. You just kind of heat up where you're wanting to scrape off, and then you take a scraper, metal scraper, because the plastic ones will definitely melt, and then you just scrape the veneer off. We got that all off. It took a little bit of elbow grease, but Neem to the rescue yet again with his strength to help me get all that veneer off. Really, it's not a hard job. It just does take a little bit of extra elbow grease. If you ever need to remove a little bit of veneer, don't be afraid to give it a shot. I am going to grab my sander out now. Since that Dixie mud is dry, we are gonna go ahead and sand that all down and see if we need to apply any more on some spots. So when I was sanding, I noticed that I did have some peeling up of this veneer that is on this right door. So I don't wanna take it all the way completely off. So I'm going to be fixing it, and I'm gonna be using some wood glue and some clamps to do so. So I've just got my Tight Bond premium wood glue. I'm gonna put it on a little bit of veneer that I chipped off earlier. That way I can get it in there, get it up in there. Otherwise, it's kind of tricky to get it up in there. You could have a syringe. I haven't gotten a syringe yet, so don't really have that available to me here in the shop today. Could also use cardboard, things like that. We're just gonna get as much to go in there as possible. And then I'm gonna grab my clamps and clamp them down. So we're gonna let this dry now. And in the meantime, I'm gonna head up top and I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna spruce up the inside while we're waiting for the ability to paint. So back here in the back of the hutch, I thought it would be fun to add a little design. So we're gonna do some peel and stick wallpaper. It's black and white, and I think this is just pretty neutral, so it'll really go with any color. Pain in my butt, not perfect, but definitely I like it better than the yellowy color that was in there before. Our Dixie mud is still drying, so basically now we're gonna play a waiting game and wait for everything to dry, the glue, the Dixie mud, and then I'm gonna reveal the color to you guys. I ended up extra clamping this door so that it would definitely be sure to come together really well. So it's the moment of truth with removing the clamps. All right, looks like it came together really well. So now I'll just take my sander. When I do the Dixie mud, I'll just kind of sand down. There's just a few spots where the glue seeped out, so we'll just smooth that out and it'll be good as new. Perfect. All right, the Dixie mud is dry, so I'm ready to sand that down. I'm so excited to get painting with this color. All right, everything is wiped down with my microfiber cloth. Everything is smoothed out. So you know what that means? It's time to paint. As you guys know, Dixie Belle came out with some beautiful new fall colors, and I am going to be using the color Merlot today. Merlot is a rich red that is kind of like a wine color, hence its name Merlot. So it's kind of a rusty red, and I'm really excited to get it on here and see how it dries, because you know, the paint in the jar always looks a little bit different than the paint when it dries. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm gonna be using my Dixie Belle mini brush. And then of course, I've got my spray bottle in hand to mist the paint as I put it on. Okay, first coat of Merlot is on, and it's looking gorgeous. We're gonna let that dry and we'll come back for coat number 2. Well, I just spent the past probably hour and a half sanding, and you guys, if you know me, you know that I love wood, but I also love to paint things, but whenever I can, I love to keep wood. Well, the outside of this piece was just not salvageable. There was way too many veneer chips and things like that, but on the inside, I started sanding down the shelves originally, but then I went down below and then I did all of that in there. And then I also went ahead and started sanding inside of the hutch, and the wood grain is just gorgeous. So I am definitely excited and glad that I just kept sanding. It might take a while, yes, but the end result is totally worth it. But I'm finally ready for coat number 2. The first coat has had plenty of time to dry, so we're gonna do a quick scuff sand just to sand out any imperfections or texture, and then we'll do coat number 2. The second coat is all finished, so we're gonna let that dry yet again, and then we will move on to the top coat, which I'm thinking I might bring out the wax for. Time for top coat. I'm gonna be using Dixie Belle's Best Dang Wax in the clear coat. It does look white in the actual container, but it dries clear on there. And this is gonna really richen up the color of the Merlot and kind of make it a little bit more deep as well. So I'm gonna be using my Best Dang brush from Dixie Belle as well. And that's gonna help me apply the wax, and then we'll just let it stay on there for a bit and we will wipe it back. You just really want to rub it into the paint as much as you can so it can seep down in there, and that's what will really richen that color. By the way, I'm not sure if richen is a word, but it sounds good.
Enrich.
Enrich. Now that we've got it all covered up with wax, I'm gonna go with my microfiber cloth and buff all the wax out so that we don't see that white anymore. This will just buff it in, kind of rub it into the paint a little bit more, as well as just give it that protective layer. You might notice that some of the color comes off when you're waxing, and that's just normal. It's okay as long as you're not busting through all the way to the coat under, or to the original surface, then you should be totally fine. If it does go all the way through, then I would suggest maybe doing a whole nother coat. At least do 2 coats of paint if you're gonna do wax. All right, all the wax is buffed out. It's looking really good. I'm ready to get the shelves in and the hardware on. So I went to Menards and I got these magnetic holders for the doors. So this part goes on the actual door. This part goes right on the inside of it, so that basically they'll stay shut, and then they also won't shut too far. Because right now it kind of goes past right here down at the bottom, and so I just want it to be able to sit right about there. So that means that I am going to be putting this guy right behind here in the door, so that way when we connect them, it'll be like a magnet. So I'm just going to kind of feel out where I want this, and then we will screw in the magnet part, the attachment, and then we'll screw in the part that goes on the door. So I think right about there is a good spot, which is perfect because it's right lined up with this. So we'll put it on this back piece of wood. And then as far as placement goes, we want to kind of move it over because remember there will be another one for this door. So we don't want it to overlap too much. So I think we're gonna go right there. That's right about perfect, right there. That's not going anywhere. And then we'll check out right about where this needs to go, the magnet. Let's test it out. Perfect. Now we'll do the other side. All right, all of the magnetic pieces are hooked together, so let's install the hardware. If you guys know me, I like to keep the original hardware, so that's what I'm doing. I just spruced it up with a little gold spray paint, and then I'm just gonna go ahead and reattach it. All right, you guys, you ready for the final reveal? Here we are, the final reveal. Let me know what you guys think. I truly love this color. It is like a chameleon. So are tons of other colors, but this is reddish in some lights, but more orangey in some lights, and even a little bit of hints of brown in some lights. So this just really came together awesome, and I'm so glad that I decided to use it on this old vintage Hutch. This, I think, could be great as a coffee bar or even just as a little bit of extra storage in a small apartment or something like that. I'm always thinking of where can I use where could this be used if a buyer were to buy it? And you know, my thoughts could be different than the buyer's thoughts, but when I'm listing that on Facebook Marketplace, I always make sure to suggest things that it could be used for because maybe they didn't think of that. I'm thinking about listing this around 200 to 250 on Facebook Marketplace. We'll see how it goes. I hope you guys are really enjoying Suzanne's fall colors. They are limited, so you have to get yours now if you're interested in any of the 5 colors or the flannel. So there are links down below, and you can get your Merlot or any other color down there today, and act fast because they are a huge hit, so definitely get yours now. I hope you guys enjoyed this flip. I know I did, so we'll see you next Friday for FFT Fridays, and we'll see you on the flip side.